Hello, I'm Dave and this is Logan, out once again for a walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at the pretty village of Hinton St Mary in Dorset. It's located about 1 mile north of Sturminster Newton and 10 miles northwest of Blandford Forum. And we're going to be walking a roughly 3-mile circular route, starting with a wander through the village, and then we'll head west to explore an old mill and then stroll along the banks of the River Stour before heading back on our return journey along the Hardy Way. Now I'm filming in September. We are just in the middle of a little bit of a heat wave, so we're going to do our walk very early in the morning. It's only just gone 7:30 now, and that's why we're only going to do a 3-mile walk. So we should be done and dusted by lunchtime, but the sun is already peeping up. Should be perfect conditions for a walk. Do come along with us. Well, I've parked my car in the village, and before we head out into the countryside, let's have a little look round Hinton St Mary itself. Now, a lot of the history of the village surrounds the Manor House and church. You can probably see the church behind me, and right next to it is the Manor House there. Well, from the 12th century up until the dissolution of monasteries, the manor was a lay brother settlement belonging to Shaftesbury Abbey. In 1545, Henry VIII granted the manor to William, the 7th Lord of Stourton, and in 1564, Queen Elizabeth I granted it to Robert Freck, and his family lived here for the next 180 years or so, during which time most of the old houses in the village were either built or rebuilt, including the Manor House, which is actually on the site of the old monastic dormitory. I think it includes some of the original 13th century remains. There's then a long history which I'll miss out, but in 1880 General Augustus Pitt-Rivers, the archaeologist, inherited the estate from his cousin. His surname was Lane Fox, and he was required to adopt the Pitt-Rivers name as a condition of the bequest. He built the lodge, which is at the end of the drive to the Manor House, and in 1900 the Manor House was enlarged and modernised and the garden was laid out. But for the past 50+ years, Anthony and Val Pitt-Rivers have lived in the Manor House, and they manage and run the estate today. Well, next to the Manor House is the church, St Peter's Church. Now, a medieval church was established on the site in the 12th century, and as I say, at the time the lay brothers settlement was here. In 1846, though, it was completely rebuilt in perpendicular style, incorporating the 15th century tower. And it consists of a nave, chancel, west tower, south porch and north vestry. And if you look carefully at the top, at the base of the parapet on the tower, there's a gargoyle in each corner. I think there's a devil's mask swallowing a human body, a winged mask, a monkey and a human head. Well, let's have a little peep inside, and yes, I have found the light switch, although the lights might flicker a bit on the GoPro. Anyway, there's the font on the left-hand side. I believe that is 13th century. And a magnificent organ at the back there with some lovely decorations. And again, looking on the other side, apologies if there's a bit of flickering on the screen. There's the pulpit on the right, which I believe is 18th century. And then the chancel, beautiful stained glass window above the altar there. There's another equally impressive stained glass window on the right hand side as well. What a beautiful church. Well, just by the gates of the Manor House, so you've got the lodge on the left hand side, 2 magnificent birds on columns either side, and then just on the right, that's the old tithe barn behind there, which dates back to the 15th, 16th centuries. I think at one stage it was converted into a hall, and these days they have weddings and receptions and events there. Well, we've seen the Manor House and the church. Let's have a tiny little wander through the rest of the village. And there's the White Horse pub. It's an 18th, 19th century building, although there was a record of a beer house in the village from at least 1753. And I expect it'll be our final destination, purely for research purposes, for the video, of course. Well, there are some beautiful buildings in this village. Look at this one here with the thatch and the pheasant on the top of the roof there. Brilliant. Well, isn't that quite magnificent? I think it's called Dalton's, and I believe it dates to the 18th century. Not 100% sure. It really is quite splendid. Oh, and they keep coming, don't they? Look at this one. I love the roses climbing up the wall there. Quite exquisite. Oh wow, I think this is my favourite so far. The thatch, the roses, you've got yellow, red, orange. Quite breathtaking. Well, right next to the pub, the Hinton St Mary village garden. Looks intriguing, especially with the old village stocks above the sign there. Well, just as we go into the little garden, there's an information board here about the Hinton St Mary Roman mosaic. Well, I'll tell you all about that right at the end of the video. Well, isn't this quite enchanting? It's a community garden, the Millennium Garden, made in 1999 in an episode of the BBC series Charlie's Garden Army, starring Charlie Dimmock. And there's all sorts of things in here to explore. There's a maze, which is just in front of me here, and a little seat next to it. In fact, there's a couple of seats in front of the maze. There's a stone bench right by the entrance to the garden. And there, down in front of me here, I think it's a sundial. I guess you stand in the middle and work out the time. Well, that was good fun going around that maze. I'm not sure that Logan fully understood what was going on. There you go. Right, well, we're now going to head out into the countryside, heading in a sort of westerly direction. Heading out the village, we'll cross the B3092 and then through some fields. Well, I'm pleased to say the sun is now out in all its glory. So we've crossed that main road, and so we're continuing to head westwards towards the River Stour, an old friend of ours. Just make our way along the side of a field and a little bit of open area, and Logan thought it'd be a good idea to do some zoomies. Cue the music. Now, I was trying to keep you nice and cool today, but you did insist on doing those zoomies. Oh well, it was good fun, wasn't it? Now, just a little update on the route. We're just going to do a little temporary detour to the north, going through a little bit of woodland called Joyce's Coppice, which should give us a little bit of shade. Right, now it looks as though we've joined a section of the Hardy Way, which is that 220-mile long distance path that winds its way through Dorset, linking places that had a connection with the author and poet Thomas Hardy. And it starts at Higher Bockhampton, where he was born, and finishes at Stinsford Churchyard, where his heart is buried. And of course, we've been to both of those places on a recent walk. Just going through this lovely shaded wood, which is just what the doctor ordered to keep us cool. Logan's on squirrel alert. Amazing how lush and green everything is. We have had a fair bit of rain over the summer, that's for sure. Well, here we are, meeting up once again, as I said, an old friend, the River Stour, as you can probably see behind me, with the old mill. And from this point, we're now going to follow the river sort of southwards on the eastern side of the bank. Let's have a look at the mill first. And there it is, looking a bit sorry for itself these days. It was burnt down by vandals in 2003. The present building dates from the 18th, 19th century. It was rebuilt in 1817 after a fire. But basically there's been a mill on the site for centuries. Indeed, there was one mentioned in the Domesday Book. I think it stopped being used on a full-time basis in the 1920s. And then just in front of it there's the River Stour, say 61 miles long. It's the longest river in Dorset. Its source is at Stour Head in Wiltshire, and it flows out to sea at Christchurch. And of course we came across the source of the river in a walk at Stour Head Gardens. Oh, I could have stayed by the mill and watched the river flow by for ages, but we need to kick on. So we're on the eastern side of the river, and we're going to follow the Stour Valley Way, which is basically a long distance path that pretty much follows the course of the river. Well, for the next little section of the walk, I say we're literally going to walk alongside the River Stour, and of course a day like today, very peaceful and smooth flowing, and we can look out for some wildlife as we go. Well, we've just come out of Joyce's Coppice. We're on the sort of western edge of that with the river on our right. Now a little bit of open area where we get to see the river in greater detail, and it really is quite breathtaking. I reckon this is one of my favourite rivers. I've done quite a few sections of it over the last couple of years or so. So this little bit of walk that I'm on probably gets quite a bit muddy during the winter, so this is very much a summer walk. Another little pit stop. I just love these river walks where from time to time you just have to stop for 5 minutes or so and just take it all in. So peaceful. And the cows in the background on the other bank, happily munching away. Well, just as I'm making my way alongside the river, looking back, you can see the gallops on my right. You can see the posts and rails, and those are they're part of the stables of William Fox-Pitt, the eventer. I think he's won 3 Olympic medals over the years, 2 silver and 1 bronze in the team, certainly. And he's won 1 world team gold. I think he won Burghley 6 times and badminton twice, amongst many other big competitions. But this is obviously where they come and exercise the horses using the gallops. Now, if you're doing this walk, you need just to look out for this, looks like a couple of sleepers across a ditch. It's easy to miss, but this is where the footpath bears right. I mean, it still follows the river, but it's easy to miss, as I found out. Well, I'm absolutely loving this. I mean, I enjoy river walks anyway, but I think this is one of the best that I've done so far in the series in terms of being able to follow the course of it right close to the bank and really almost feel part of it. Well, be careful there, lad. I think it looks quite deep. You can have a little drink of water, but yeah, I think that's all we're going to get in terms of dog dip today. Come on. Oh, have you had much luck today?
I've been catching quite a few carp.
Carp?
No, perch.
Oh, perch, sorry, yeah.
And a couple of skimmers early on.
What bait are you using?
I'm using maggots.
Maggots, yeah. A lovely way to spend an early September morning. Oh, how do I put this picture into words? And the way the sunlight is gleaming on the water there. It's breathtaking, isn't it? Well, this is where we say goodbye to the River Stour as it continues southwards to Sturminster Newton, or Stour as the locals call it. So we're going to now start, well, heading northwards again, joining up again with the Hardy Way. We're now in a lovely little shaded wood called Twinwood Coppice. Incidentally, just before I came into the wood, if you look at an old map, there's a boundary stone to the right near the road. Now, as regular viewers know, I love to see if I can find boundary stones, but I couldn't get access to it from this side of the woods because I'd have to cross private land. So before I started the walk, I stopped off in the car by the road to see if I could find this elusive boundary stone. Now I think that's it over on the other side of the road. Yes, there we go. Success! A boundary stone has been bagged. I wonder how many centuries that's been there. Brilliant. Well, we're very much on the final leg of the walk now, just about to head back into Hinton St Mary. But before we do, there's one final thing to have a look at. In some ways, it's probably the most interesting. Now, if you look at a very old 1903 map, you'll see on the corner by the road an old smithy. Well, this is the field just behind where that blacksmith was. History lesson coming up. Well, back in 1963, the blacksmith here was in his backyard extending his washing line when he found a hard bit underneath where he was making a new hole. Well, basically, he discovered a complete massive Roman mosaic. It was about 8 metres long, 5 metres wide, and included a portrait of what many people thought at the time was Jesus Christ. And if it was, when it would have been one of the earliest representations of him from the ancient world. And, well, it probably was the first one to be placed on a mosaic. However, there's some debate that it might in fact depict a Roman emperor, either Constantine, and it kind of looks a bit like him with his sort of cleft chin, or it might be Emperor Magnentius. If you look back at some old coins that he had printed, he had a P and an X behind his head, and that's what appears on the mosaic. Anyway, the mosaic was dug up and taken to the British Museum. So it was originally thought that the area around here was a Roman villa or farmhouse, but these days they now think it just might have been a Roman building with a religious purpose, possibly for the small Christian community, such as the monastic lodgings or possibly a shrine. And I believe there was a bit of controversy about the mosaic and the fact that it was broken up when it was at the British Museum, apart from the central bit. Anyway, I'll let you look it up on the internet. I did read somewhere that there are plans to bring the whole thing back to Dorset, perhaps the Dorchester Museum, I'm not sure. Anyway, near the end of the walk, we need to check out that White Horse pub. Well folks, we've made it to the White Horse, where I'm just about to quality test a pint of Buckham. Thumbs up from me. Logan's just had some dog treats from the landlady, haven't you? We've had a super walk today. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. I say the weather has been glorious. I'm glad we did the walk in the morning though, because it is very hot now, and Logan's relaxing in his nice dog cool coat. So until we meet again, thanks for watching, and cheerio. And that is the cue for your favourite time, Piper's Crisps. There we go. Oh, now back to this pint.